The Keller ISD board meeting is expected to be pretty raucous tonight, with parents who want to talk about a proposal that would split the district into 2 school districts.
The board's been accused of not being transparent about the proposal with parents and even some school board members. Fox 4's Sean Rabb talked with former state education leaders about the steps needed to make it actually happen. Sean.
Yeah, and you might be surprised to know that this discussion in Keller is not just here, but this is something happening nationwide. 120 folks have signed up to speak tonight. There will be no action. People want answers. Is this because of financial challenges? 80% of districts in Texas are operating at a deficit, or is it something else? Is it the state's grading system, its accountability system that has lowered the Keller ISD's rating? So has low-performing schools impacted the image of Keller ISD? The idea of splitting the Keller ISD district means a traditional Keller district and a new district, the Alliance. Some parents say the new district in a less affluent part of the current school boundaries would lose out.
Splitting the district is going to allow Keller side to keep all of those facilities, and the Alliance side will lose access to all those facilities. Or in some cases, what could happen, and again, I don't know the specific details, Keller can charge the Alliance district.
Michelle Testerman and others, including at least 2 board members, don't know the specific details because they've not been talked about. In Facebook posts, the board president has made reference to budget challenges public school districts are facing.
The funding formula has not been readjusted by the state since 2019.
Former Sunnyvale ISD Superintendent Doug Williams consults districts, superintendents, and trustees. Dividing the district of 34,000 students, he says, would be problematic.
When you begin to create those dividing lines, you are going to have to look at demographic makeup, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's your ethnicity makeup, whatever. And so I think all of that is going to have to be taken into consideration.
What is being discussed in the Keller district, though, is happening nationwide. A 2019 Education Week article called the splintering away of wealthy areas from school districts a trend that is speeding up.
Sean, I think we're going to see more of this, or we potentially could see more of this.
Mike Moses was Texas Education Agency Commissioner when Chapter 13, which creates a way for creation, consolidation, abolition, or detachment of districts in the Education Code, was implemented if they can meet a high bar. He says part of the problem is how accountability is graded.
When the public looks at the grades, so to speak, they may not have all the information about who attends that school, how many kids really are low performing. Are there 10, are there 5, are there 50? But what it does, it causes some people to think, well, maybe we need to split up and get away from the low performing schools or low performing kids, or maybe we need to detach.
Now, Tarrant County Judge Tim O'Hara tells me that he believes that the board can do this with a resolution, but if they don't, then it would take a certain number of names on a petition to be presented to the Commissioner's Court, and the Commissioner's Court could then call an election. 25% of the voters in the Keller ISD would have to turn out at that election. All of that is a long time away, as well as how the lines would be divided, what about property taxes, and all of those kinds of things. A lot more reporting and a long way to go before we get there, if we ever get to the split of this district.